Now turn to Part 1. Part 1.
You will hear a telephone conversation between a hotel receptionist and a customer. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5. Now we shall begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, because you will not hear the recording a second time. Listen carefully and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning, Sunset Hotel. How may I help you?
Good morning. I just saw an advert in the paper about your hotel. Where exactly is it located?
We are situated on Sunset Avenue, north of the beach, close to many scenic spots. It is an ideal choice for travellers interested in sightseeing.
That's great. Is there a vacant 4-bed room? We'll be travelling with our 2 sons, aged 9 and 11, so it's best that we are able to stay in one room.
Let me check. Just a moment. We only have a few 4-bed rooms, and I'm afraid they are fully booked at the moment. The earliest time available is August, but there might be some left in July if a previous customer cancels the reservation.
Oh, that'll do. How much would the room cost me?
It's €77.50 during peak time, but the price would be much lower during off-peak season. Only €50.
So, if I book a room right now, is there any discount?
Yes, we do offer a 30% discount for any reservation made 1 month ahead of schedule. It is a very reasonable price.
That does sound tempting. Does the price include anything?
The price includes 2 breakfast vouchers per room per day. You can use them at 2 different restaurants in our hotel. There's also a 20-minute spa trial available, but you have to book it beforehand at the concierge or directly at the spa centre.
I'm wondering if there is a hairdryer in the room. It takes ages to dry my hair without one. Do I have to bring one?
No, there is absolutely no need to bring that, for each room is equipped with a hairdryer. But I have to inform you that towels are not provided. You'll have to bring your own, or hire some at the front desk.
Oh, I see.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10. Now listen and answer questions 6 to 10.
Before making a reservation, can you tell me a little bit more about your hotel?
Sure, no problem. We aim to please our guests by providing impeccable service at all the modern amenities, trying to make them feel at home. In the lounge, there are a list of books, ranging from contemporary literature to classic poetry, free for any guest to read. There is also a games room, offering a number of indoor games, including popular board games like Monopoly, as well as the beloved table soccer. A nice place to go on rainy days.
Are the computers available in the hotel? I might have a few emails to respond to during my stay there.
I'm afraid we currently do not provide any for our customers. However, internet is available within our hotel premises. Just use the room number and the guest name to log in.
That means I have to bring my own laptop then. All right. Because I'm travelling with my 2 sons, is there anything that they might be interested in?
Yes, a popular activity here for children is collecting shells on the beach. Our hotel has a private beach. When there are very few visitors, you can take a stroll down the beach with your children and enjoy some quality family time, undisturbed.
That sounds nice, but you see, my boys really love adventure. Is there something more exciting for them to participate in?
We do have bicycles ready for hire. You can cycle with the boys along the bush track by the hotel, which is an ideal place to explore the wonders of nature. But because there is only a limited number of bicycles, we apply a first-come, first-served rule.
Got it. I think my boys would love it. How can I arrange the payment then? Can I pay by credit card?
Of course, we take credit cards.
Thank you. You've been a great help.
My pleasure, Ma'am.
That is the end of part 1. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to part 1.
You will now listen to a talk by the Water Project Manager of a charity called Charity Water. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 17. Now listen carefully and answer questions 11 to 17.
As Charity Water's Water Project Manager, I travel to some of the most desperate places on Earth in search of clean water. And while the landscape changes, there's always one thing that remains the same. The women are always walking. Whether I'm in the mountains of Haiti in rural Liberia or the jungles of the Central African Republic, the women are always carrying water. To give you an idea of the work that Charity Water does, I'll tell you the story of one of these women. Driving down a bumpy road in the middle of northern Uganda, our truck suddenly swerves off the road and up over an embankment. We usually prefer to surprise communities by our arrival because it makes it easier to monitor how our water points are functioning, without hundreds of people watching. But once you visit a few communities in the neighbourhood, rumours of your presence spread like wildfire. We jump out of the truck and walk into a party. This is when I met Helen Apis. She told me about the new freshwater well in her village. "I am happy now," Helen beamed. "I have time to eat. My children can go to school, and I can even work in my garden, take a shower, and then come back for more water if I want. I am bathing so well." A few of the men chuckled to hear a woman talk about bathing, but All I noticed was Helen's glowing face, the fresh flowers in her hair, and the lovely green dress she wore for special occasions. Touching her forearm, I replied, "Well, you look great." "Yes," she paused, placing both hands on my shoulders and smiling. She said, "Now I am beautiful." That really hit me. My job is to focus on sustainable development, health, hygiene, and sanitation to make sure Charity Water's projects are working in 20 years. But nowhere on any of my surveys or evaluations was a place to write, "Today, we made someone feel beautiful."
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you will have some time to look at questions 18 to 20. Now listen carefully and answer questions 18 to 20.
Before she had clean water, Helen would wake up before dawn, take her only 2 5-gallon jerry cans, and walk almost 1.5 miles to the nearest water point, which happened to be at a school. Because there simply wasn't enough water for the area's population, she'd wait in line with hundreds of other women who also valued clean water. Helen's only other option was to skip the wait and collect contaminated water from a pond. Helen spent most of her day walking and waiting. She told me each day she'd say to herself, "How should I use this water today? Should I water my garden so we can grow food? Should I wash my children's uniforms? Should I use it to cook a meal? Should we drink this water?" With 2 children, 1 husband, and 10 gallons, Helen had to make choices. I saw the shame in her eyes when she described how she would return from her long trek to find her 2 young children waiting for her. They were often sent home from school because their uniforms were dirty. With the new well in her village, her life was transformed. She now had choices, free time, options. Also, Helen had been chosen to be the Water Committee treasurer, collecting nominal fees from 51 households to use for the maintenance of their well. Water committees are often the first time women are ever elected to leadership positions in villages. Last month, Helen was standing in line waiting for water. This month, she's standing up for her community. And now, she is beautiful.
That is the end of part 2. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to part 2.
Part 3. You will hear 2 early childhood education students discussing a presentation they will give on reading picture books with children. First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 26. Now listen carefully and answer questions 21 to 26.
Hi, are you ready to discuss our presentation?
Yeah, sure.
So, what are we going to say about teachers reading picture books with young children?
I think we should start with the reasons why teachers use picture books.
The journal article we read mentioned several picture books and why they're popular with teachers.
Right, like I Spy Friends. It's a lovely story.
Yeah, the children like to find the familiar faces from the fairy tales they know so well.
And they're all doing predictable things. The article said children find this familiarity very comforting.
Yes. Now, how about Good Night Little Rabbit, which has those delightful pictures? I love the way the colours get darker as the book progresses, indicating how evening turns into night.
Me too. The article said that's why teachers like it.
Very cute. And a good example of visual subtext. Hard to believe that it came out over 60 years ago. It's still relevant.
I really liked what the article said about the boat party. There's a lot of repetition, which I think would be great for vocabulary development.
That's true. But apparently it's the images that make it popular with children. The artist is really well known, and children often ask for her books.
Oh, that's good to know.
And shall we also include Puppy and Friends?
Yes, it sounds like an innocent title, but the article warns that there's a bit of a fright. You know, the one on the last page when the puppy suddenly encounters the scary cat. Teachers like to use this to help children explore their emotions.
Sounds good. Hats and Socks is a good one. It doesn't really have a beginning and an end, does it? Which is unusual.
That's why teachers like this one though. Because it's so different, it's good for children to hear a story that doesn't follow the usual pattern.
And the pages are so full of life and colour. A good choice. Okay, and for our last one, how about A Family Adventure? This one uses a lot of the same language throughout, which I think can help with letter and word recognition. Teachers say it has a really poetic feel to it. They often sing it to a simple tune.
Yes, and it's full of beautiful watercolours too.
Before you hear the rest of the discussion, you have some time to look at questions 27 to 30. Now listen and answer questions 27 to 30.
In the next part of our presentation, shall we look at some of the other research? I really liked Smith's article about the history of picture books. Picture books haven't been around for that long, of course, and as we know from our reading lists, there's a lot of research on them already. Smith makes some interesting points.
Yes, one thing that shocked me was that some people don't consider picture books as proper writing, because they don't have enough words in them.
Yes, that was unexpected for me as well. I think they should be just as respected as other works of fiction. Smith also mentioned that books from other countries are very popular here, even though they don't show our daily life. I think that's interesting.
But it's the same for adult fiction too. People want variety. What I didn't realise is how fixed the number of pages is.
Me neither. I wasn't expecting that they're so strictly limited to 32 pages. It's important, so let's include it.
All right. Now let's think about other aspects of picture books we want to include in our presentation. How about the characters?
Okay, well, a lot of them feature animals, or families often in very traditional roles. But do you think we need to talk about that? For me, the main thing is that they are mostly printed as board books. The cardboard material makes it easy for young children to turn their pages.
I agree, and it's essential for children to hold books and learn how they open at the front and that the text goes in a certain direction.
Good point. Why don't we also discuss how culture is important in picture books, like the importance of respecting the elderly?
Yes, it's probably different all over the world. Would it be interesting to make a comparison between modern and historical picture books and consider future directions for the genre?
It sounds interesting, but I don't have any research on that, so we'd better leave it.
So what's next? We don't need
That is the end of Part 3. You now have 30 seconds to check your answers to Part 3. Part 4. You will hear a geography professor telling his class about an upcoming field trip to the far north of Quebec in Canada. First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40. Now listen carefully and answer questions 31 to 40.
Good morning. Next week is the Geography 331 field trip to the far north of Quebec. Today, I'll discuss your trip and your tasks. As you know, you will be close to the Arctic Circle. You're going to travel up the James Bay Road through a region that is very remote and uninhabited, yet very beautiful. The highway is 620 kilometers long, but it's fully paved for the entire length. Where the highway begins, there is a roadside office where you must stop. The road is remote, so your registration is very important in case of an emergency. The office is staffed 24 hours per day, 7 days per week. You have to sign in to go up the road and sign out upon your return. For additional safety, at different places along the highway, telephones have been installed which connect with staff in the office. Remember, there is no mobile service in this remote area. The first work of your field trip is at the end of the James Bay Road in Radisson, a small town of only 300 inhabitants. You will stay at Radisson Research Center, which works with various universities and Hydro-Quebec to carry out studies into the ecology of the region. Because the research center and the road exist as a result of the development of hydroelectricity complexes in northern Quebec, Hydro-Quebec is responsible for all emergency assistance and security of all visitors. Your first few days at the center will be spent attending lectures about their past research. You will hear that they have paid particular attention to any disturbance to the land caused by insects. After that, you will visit the various outpost stations. There are 3 of them, and when you visit them, you'll be able to observe how data on the varying patterns of the climate is collected and published for scientific research. The second part of your field trip is back down the James Bay Road to the Trans-Taiga Road, which is the northernmost continuous unpaved road in eastern North America. In fact, it's very uneven gravel, so drivers have to be very careful. Hydro-Quebec cautions that driving over rocks on the rough road may cause severe damage to the car. Any breakdown is serious, as repairs are costly. Along the way, you will be stopping at 2 hydroelectric generating stations, each on a different river. There you'll meet with engineers who will explain and demonstrate how rainfall has an impact on producing electric energy. Your last 2 days of the trip will be spent camping out in the taiga on the Canadian Shield. Taiga is the Russian term for a type of forest. You will find the region is relatively poor in the number of plant species, yet there is a great variety of wildlife that can be seen. You'll go to an area that once had forest fires, and you'll see how the landscape has naturally small rocky hills which confine the lower wetlands. These low-lying areas are called muskeg, which is made up of slowly decomposing plants. It is not safe to walk on it, as it has pools that are not easily seen, so keep to the rocks. The muskeg is home to many small birds and waterfowl. In fact, there are at least 60 varieties, so keep your waterproof digital cameras handy so you can take plenty of pictures. Then we will have documentation of the existing waterfowl, as some are becoming extinct. Water is a problem in this area, so you'll also be collecting test tubes of water to bring back to our research lab for analysis. It needs to be monitored for pollution that may be caused by rainfall coming from the south.
That is the end of Part 4. You now have 1 minute to check your answers to Part 4. That is the end of the listening test. You now have 10 minutes to transfer your answers to the listening answer sheet.